Call the Honourable Ruth Dyson.
Mr Chairman, thank you. I'm pleased to take a contribution in the estimates vote Canterbury earthquake recovery and this new structure of bracketing portfolios as we do. I was interested in the member who's just resumed her seat and her comments, and I think that she's actually not being straight with Cantabrians or with New Zealanders. I think she's demonstrating an arrogance that is surprising for someone of her background, and I think she's out of touch with where we are in Canterbury. The government members have had a big push on saying how much money they're spending in Canterbury. $16.5 billion is the figure that is often quoted. Half of that money is actually EQC cash. So immediately you have the contribution of government. They promised $6.7 billion on what they described as core Crown contributions. That's roads, sewerage, schools and hospitals. Well, from 2011 to the first promise until the end of 2014, there has been $2 billion spent. That's all. The handbrake has been put on the government investment in Canterbury to try and get to the surplus, but it still didn't happen in this year's budget. Another failed promise from the government, another failed attempt at getting a surplus. Mr Chairman, even more interestingly though, when you look at the budget and the Canterbury earthquake recovery, the Reserve Bank says that in Canterbury there'll be about $35 billion of insurance money going into the region. $35 billion. So if you look at what that sort of investment does to the Canterbury economy, particularly to employment, combined with the logical housing boom that we're experiencing as a result of replacement houses paid for by insurance, then you'll see an increase immediately, increased unemployment, lower number of people on benefits, an immediate increase of $10 billion per annum in Crown income. Just remember that original investment figure that the government's been trumpeting. Additional taxes on wages, Reserve Bank estimates at $4 billion. Additional GST, which they might get anyway and goes back to the business. But that gives a total tax boost of $11 billion. So who is paying for the Canterbury recovery? Actually mostly insurance companies, and the government is likely to end off better off as a result of those insurance company investments and the growth stimulation. This is not a plan for New Zealand's future. You cannot have a plan that's built on the back of insurance payouts as a result of natural disasters. That is not the sort of future and security that New Zealanders need. Mr Chairman, the Canterbury Earthquake Recovery Authority is, thank goodness, going out of existence in the very near future. Finally, we have a transition plan that's been prepared, looking at the handing over of the powers of SERA to relevant government departments, organisations and of course our 3 local authorities. In order to prepare for the winding up of the organisation, the Canterbury Earthquake Recovery Authority has recently doubled its communications budget, doubled the number of staff and doubled the amount of money it is spending. I find that really puzzling. And when they were asked, when the Chief Executive and the Minister were asked, why are you doubling your budget when you're going out of existence in less than a year's time, they said, we need to keep people informed. Well, that'd be a first. That would be a first since that organisation was established. And they said there's an increasing amount of work happening with the anchor projects. Actually, every single anchor project, except the bus exchange, where they've had 15 accidents in less than 2 months as a result of the ingoing and outgoing traffic. It's a major success. Every other anchor project has been delayed. The Minister came to the Select Committee to talk about the vote. When he was asked about the delay, he blamed the media. It's all made up. And yet we had the Prime Minister at the annual tourism conference saying the convention centre in Christchurch has got a budget that's blown out, it might not go ahead, and the Minister for Earthquake Recovery said there's no blowout in the budget. One of them is either mistaken or not telling the truth. They can't both be right, and it's really hard to figure out. I'd be backing the Prime Minister on this particular point, Mr Speaker. There are a number of other issues that need to be addressed. I'll wait for a further call.
I call
Seeing we're only allowed one.
Brett Hudson.